Okay, this problem is going to require a few more steps and some research. So what we're going to look at is using the capital asset pricing model to calculate expected returns and then comparing them to what we think were actual returns. It's hypothetical, just so that we can get some data to work with. But first thing we need to do is find all the betas for the individual companies, 3M, Philip Morris, and Tesla. But before we get going, why don't we build a little bit of a structure off to the side? We know we're going to use capital asset pricing model. So why don't we be prepared to find all the betas? And the betas that we're going to need to find are for 3M and Philip Morris and Tesla. So just building a little research structure here so that we can notate the values. And then out here on the far left, if we click, it should take us to Yahoo Finance. There, right on the front page, when you search, here you get a beta value that you can find. So for 3M, it looks like it's 1.02. And then Philip Morris, we need to find as well, good old tobacco company. They're sitting at a 0.65, makes sense. Cigarette smokers are somewhat impervious to economic fluctuations. Unlike Tesla, which is not a required product at all, but has a much higher sensitivity at 2.43. So now we have our basic beta values. Now we know that when we're doing capital asset pricing model from up above, we also need risk-free and a market value. So over here, we're going to find the market value as was predicted for Goldman Sachs. And I couldn't make it easier for you because Goldman Sachs was predicting that the S&P 500 was going to return a whole 6%, which is not a very robust return amount. So let's go ahead and we'll put 0.06 for Goldman Sachs, make it into a nice little percent sign. Then for risk-free rates of returns, let's see what the Fed has to say about what 90-day Treasury would report. See, 3-month constant treasuries. And if we look over here, and I picked Valentine's Day for us, so Valentine's Day looks like 5.43%. So interestingly, the market itself was not expected to return much more than the risk-free rate of return was, which tells you what Goldman Sachs and others were thinking in the context of the Fed. Well, now that we have each of those, we should be able then to calculate expected returns. So if we use the capital asset pricing model from up above to calculate expected returns, then for 3M, we know it would be equal to risk-free plus its beta multiplied by market returns minus the risk-free. So we would expect that 3M would only be returning something like 6%. If we go back and affix our two values in the formula, what do we know are not going to change? Well, we know that the risk-free in blue isn't going to change, and we know that the market returns isn't going to change. And then the risk-free again, the only variable we want to change is the red one there, the M31. So once we have that, we should be able to copy and paste that over and then just double check. Philip Morris, smaller expectation. Tesla, slightly bigger expectation. And although their beta is so big, the thing that accounts for the lack of significance in the range is just the low margin of difference between the market returns and the risk-free returns. Okay, on the bottom then, let's go ahead and plot these in then. I just kind of make all these capitals just so that they look a little bit better. Now let's go ahead and say, here is what we actually saw them do in 2024. So we saw 3M do 2.2. And again, this is hypothetical given that 2024 just started. I'm trying to show you how we can do some of this comparisons. So here is what we then actually saw. So what we're going to do when we plot this graph is look at the security market line yielding us values there in yellow versus what actually happened in light blue. You know that I love to show my answers in yellow, so let's go ahead and put the answers to the question, what did the expectation of returns look like? Versus, let's go ahead and put in that light blue color then. This is what we would have observed in the marketplace. And so you can see right here, right, 3M did worse than we expected, Philip Morris did much better than expected, and Tesla did much better than expected. So now let's go ahead and plot this thing. So we want it to look like in your PDF in my answer key graph over here. Take a quick look. We've got a basic title up at the top. We have the security market line plotted here with 1, 2, 3, 4 different points in yellow representing our expectation. Then we have Philip Morris's returns, 3M's returns, and Tesla's returns right there. So let's see how we're going to start off by doing that. In order to make a good little security market line, I always drop in the 0 point so that we can see the origin. And then we can go ahead and copy and paste our expected returns over there. And as you can imagine, when beta is 0, then your returns are basically risk-free. Why we do that then is it's going to make it easier for us to plot the security market line as a scatter diagram where we're going to use beta as our x-axis values and then expected returns as our y-axis values. So let's go ahead and highlight all that information right there. And then if we insert, and we're going to go ahead and insert a scatter plot with these smooth lines and markers to start off with. Now we have our basic chart plotted. Let's go ahead and right mouse click on top of that chart and let's move that chart and let's put it as its own as a brand new sheet. And I'll put it right next to the one labeled P3 graph so that we can go ahead and do our customizations from one side to the next. Okay, looks like the first thing that we need is a nice little chart title. So let's highlight our chart title, and our chart title needs to be 2024 actual returns versus security market line. And if I'm looking at that closely, it looks like it's bolded. And I think I made this one a 20 font so that it was nice and big. So I got that up there for us. Next, I have the security market line here, and I don't have my label down here. So let's get ourselves an axis label on there. So with the chart selected, chart design, add quick element. Let's look at axis titles. Let's put the primary horizontal one on there, and that one will be beta for us. Looks to me like that one's just bolded, and looks like it's a standard 12. So we'll make it bold and we'll make it a little bit bigger into a 12. Looks like next what we need to get in here is some nice data labels. So let's make sure that we have data labels. So let's go ahead and make sure we're on the graph, chart design, add chart element, data labels. And I think I put these ones below, actually. Yeah, they are. They're sitting below. And then it looks like the data labels have some customizations. They're Calibri body 14 bold, and then they have a yellow fill and a black line around them. So let's see if we can't do all those customizations. So what's the first thing that we said we need to do? Let's make sure that we're onto the graph. Notice I have my points here. I like to bring up the format selection so that I have this pane that we can work with and minimize myself over here. And now we're looking at the data series. From the data series, we can click on our paint can over here and notice we have both lines and markers. If you take a look, we have some nice big fat markers in there. So back to that paint can, over to that marker, we have some marker options right here. Let's make it to be this built-in type. And I like this little one here, and I'm pretty sure I made them 10s. So that should give you those nice big fat points that you see right on there. But what we said is we really need some data labels. So back to chart design, add chart element. Let's get our data labels on there. They are below already. And now let's see if we can't customize those data labels on here. But notice I'm on the data series, not the data labels. So I'm going to click off of it and then just click back onto my line. Notice it says data series here. If I click onto an individual points, it's still saying data series here. But look at this. If I click these series options, it gives me all of these different choices. Like, oh, look, here's my series 1 data labels. So why don't we go ahead and when we choose that, now I've got options on my data labels. And I can go to my paint can where I have a fill, and it looks like we have a solid fill that was that yellow color. I can just hit Control B from there to make it bold. My guess is too, we made it a little bit bigger, so it's sitting there at like a 12 font. So let's go ahead and increase the size of our font to 12. Now notice too, under this data labels, I'm on this last one for label options. I can add the X values in here. So now I have both X and Y. So you can see the beta and you can see the expected return. As I'm sitting here closer, let's make sure. Yeah, I think I actually made these bold 14. Notice when I selected, I got only one. So let's make sure that we have all of them selected. And let's make those bold 14. So there you go. Now they're even more visible. So now I have my security market line plotted up there. I've got my x-axis. I've got my title. Now let's go ahead and get the individual values onto here. So the way that we're going to do it is going to go back to chart design, and we're going to select chart data. The first series we have in here, I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, and that one was for us the security market. And then that way I just know which data that I'm working with as I'm playing around with the different values. Oops, look, I got to go back and put a box around those in a minute. We'll do that in just a second. But here, let's add in a couple of other series. So here's the way we're going to do it. Let's add a series. The first series name will go back to our CAPM problem. The first series will be our 3M series, where its individual beta X value was 1.02, and its Y value was the actual return of 2.2. So we click OK there, and now we get our first point down at the bottom for our 3M. Let's go ahead and add another one. What's the series name? Back to CAPM. Let's find then Philip Morris is the name. Its X value was a beta of 0.65, and its actual return was an 8.3. And now we have our second point on here. Third one then, let's go ahead and add. This one is going to be off CAPM again. Here's Tesla. Oops, I missed. Let's go ahead and make sure we get the proper name there, Al. Now I'm grabbing too many things. The first one's name is Tesla. Its X value is 2.43, and its actual value was the 11.7. And now I've got 1, 2, 3 standalone and separate points on this. So let's work on some customizations. So it looks like I've got those bigger dots again. I've got 3 different colors going. I've got a box. I've got some fill, and I have something I haven't shown before, which is the series value name. So let's look at these together. So let's start by selecting one point at a time. So when I grab on this, notice I'm grabbing my data labels. Again, it looks like it's much bigger. I'm guessing it's that bold 14 again for us. So let's go ahead and make sure that the first thing we do is we get 14 and we make it bold. That shows me the percent, and that's fine, but I also like the X value. And notice I'm under my format data labels when I had that selection pane pulled up. So now I see it's 0.65, 8.3, but watch this too. Because we named it, if we add the series name, now I can see Philip Morris is the 0.65 beta with the 8.3 actual return. So that is a nice little feature that allows us to go ahead and qualify things more. Now from here, I think I've got a solid fill. And for all these, I think I was using this light blue color. So we're going to do that for all of them. But notice too, I got that little baby marker in there. It changes me off data labeled to data series, but it's from there that I have paint can marker. It's fill. Let's see, what did we have added? This one looks like it's gray. So let's make sure, back to that data series. I was toggling back and forth. I missed my marker, so there we go. So here's my marker options. It's that one. It's a built-in. It's 10. And now I've got that nice big fat gray box. And the only thing I didn't get was my line around this. So if I select that one right there, again, it's under a data label, paint can, not the fill, but that's the border. And the border is a solid line, and it's usually standard black as it comes up. I said I needed to do that for these two, so I'm just going to select that there. Notice it selects all of them at the same time. Back to the paint can, I need a border that's a solid line, and again, let's make that one black. So now we've got those in there. So let's customize this one down here. Again, let's start by formatting the data label. I'm going to make that one again 14 and bold. It looks like it's a standard orange, but I need that little marker right there, which is the data series. Come back to here under the paint can, marker options, built in. This one we said was a 10. And then again, I need to get my data labels expanded in here. So if I want, I can try to see if I can't click to it and find it up here like I did before. But sometimes that's a little bit tricky. You just got to be able to know where to click exactly. And it's right up here where it says series options. And now I'm not sure which one I'm working with. Is this Philip Morris or is this Tesla? I think if I'm remembering properly, it was my data label for 3M. And then look, when I grab it, or when I select it, it actually pulls it up for me. And then from there, I can come to my third or my fourth box here, label options. And I want the series name, and indeed it was 3M. And then I want to put the X values on there too. And then let's go ahead and fill that in with that light blue solid fill. And now I've got Philip Morris, I've got 3M, I forgot my box, so I'm going to select it again, back to my paint can, and give myself my solid line that's a black border there. Beautiful. Let's do the last one last time, and it's good to get these types of reps in just so that you find where the different navigations are. There's my bold 14. I'm on my data labels already, so why not add series name there and X value there? While I'm here, let's do the paint can. Let's fill it in with our solid fill. That's that light blue. And then we need a border, which is the solid line that is black. And the only thing that we need then is this one last piece. Notice I'm on my data series again. So I've just got that one selected up. And from there, if we go paint can, marker, here's our marker options. It's a built-in, and I believe we were making that 10. I think if I look back and forth, though, I had gray, orange, and that was like a sunset orange. So there's gray, orange. Looks like I need to change that one to green if I want mine to match exactly with the PDF. So I'm back to the paint can, and that's my marker, but my marker then needs to be filled automatically. And then I can just change it to a green right there. Then when I'm done, close off my panel, make sure I set up my page layout, page setup. Let's give ourselves some header and footer. Here's your file and your tab. And then let's make sure on your custom footer, I think I've been using page and then the page number so that when I print preview it, here's my header. You'll need to change your name from chart 1 over to P3 graph. So that will say P3 graph. Then I've got 2024 actual returns versus security market line. Here's your beta on your x-axis, your values as percents on your y-axis, page numbers down below. I can clearly see that this is the security market line going from a beta of 0, 5.43%, up to the Tesla value of 2.43, 6.82 predicted, that I can then compare to Tesla's actual results, which are significantly higher, as were Philip Morris, which would have made investors happy, versus 3M, if this were the case, would have significantly underperformed. So that's how we do that problem